There we are, and welcome to another episode of Is Success Simple? I'm welcoming another guest, Kim Garcia, who is the CEO of Markinex. I hope I said that right.
Correct. You did. It's always a bit funny with business names. You're like, oh, it's got an E somewhere it shouldn't have. And, you just have to ask, but you have said it correctly. So thank you.
No, thank you. I've been practicing that in the mirror before jumping on the call. So, yeah, but I guess for people that don't know you, I guess give us a 60-second version of who you are and Markinex.
Oh gosh. Well, I have been working in the media industry for about 15 years. And so I've done everything from traditional media, newspapers, magazines, all the way through to digital and social media, which is what I am doing now. So Markinex
Mm-hmm.
is a very small boutique social media agency, and we're all about bridging the gap between brand and consumer and
Okay.
finding those really meaningful connections. And so that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years, and I'm really happy with where we are at the moment.
Awesome. Tell me, Kim, what do you love about what you do at the moment?
Oh gosh, it for me it's always been about the clients. Being a salesperson for a very, very
Mm,
long time, I think some people really love the sales or some people really
mm,
love like the relationship management, and I have always been the latter. And I think when you get to work with really great people, it kind of
mhm.
breeds creativity and it breeds really great campaigns and advertisements. And that's what cuts through. I think when you find people who are passionate about what they do, it's really easy to kind of get that energy and like really kind of drive that through your work. So that's kind of what I love to do at the moment. I've always loved working with people, and so I'm glad that I get to work with some really great brands and really great clients as well.
That's amazing. It's funny because I've spoken to a few clients and businesses recently that talk about that messaging. And yesterday on the podcast, I was with agent, and he was saying that one of the first questions he does when he speaks to a client is, "Tell me what you love about your business," and gets them to really, because it's so important. Like, and I've been in sales for years, and that passion and the question I had for him, which is similar to you, is how do you, once you get that message and that passion from, how do you turn that into a message that is transferable to different markets?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think kind of once you get that message, I think it's hard when you're trying to transfer message between markets because it doesn't always translate. Obviously, there's like cultural nuances, and
Hmm.
obviously there's product differences or whatever it might be. So I think being able to understand audience is key, but
Yeah,
also the nuance around that, because what lands one day isn't going to land the next day. You
for
always
sure.
have to have your finger on the pulse. But I think for the people behind the brands, people behind the company who really understand their audience, they're the ones that cut through. And so that's why I think having a really great relationship with any client and being able to kind
Mm,
of be like their confidant when they're
mhm.
bitching about their employer at work or whatever it might be really helps
Yeah.
drive that relationship, but then in turn really helps build great campaigns.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, awesome. It's a fascinating industry at the moment because like it's evolving so much, isn't it? And especially with AI coming into the space as well. Like, I guess what have you learned over the last 3 years, and what have you had to adapt with the market shifting so much?
Oh gosh, everything. Everything. When you work in digital media, when you work in the social media space, you cannot be complacent. Like, first and
Yeah.
foremost, you have to be really adaptable and be flexible with whatever happens, with whatever changes happen, particularly when it comes to clients and their businesses. You're in service of them, but
Yeah.
they're coming to you because they believe or they know that you guys are the experts in that field. And so you have to keep up with what's happening around you.
Hmm.
And even with some of our third party providers, every digital platform has an AI integration. And so
Yes. Yeah.
you're constantly learning. And it's so funny when you're reading the news and when people get their news from social media, there is always an article about AI, the improvements,
Mm,
what's happening. Somebody's just raised $2 million at a startup because of some AI. And
yeah.
I think you really have to understand how it works first and foremost, but also how it affects you and your business, whether that's from an efficiency or productivity, whether that's them
Mm,
replacing somebody's role or job.
yeah.
But for me, particularly, I think the larger conversation has been about how it is influencing creative industries.
Yeah. Okay.
And particularly when it comes to content creation, which is a lot of what we do, it's it is very, very interesting to try and integrate it because AI is still like we're still in its kind of infancy. And so it's still learning and so are we.
Mm,
And so it's not always right. And so
yes.
I always kind of tell my employees whenever we do use, Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever other iteration it is, to always fact check. And like go back and fact check and question, because
Yeah.
if you agree and you believe that that is like the one source of truth, I don't think we're doing our job, and I don't think then we're then integrating AI properly. I think there's some great uses for AI, and I think everybody should embrace it. But
Okay.
how we integrate it into our workflow and how we, I guess, then offload that to clients, yeah, I think is still a great learning process.
For sure. And you mentioned that you feel everyone should embrace it. Why is that?
Well, I think we're kind of in a AI revolution at the moment. We can't go a conversation or we can't go a day without it being a part of our lives or
Yeah.
the world talking about it or the media talking about it. And so it's just in the stratosphere at the moment. So I think if you're not part of the conversation, you're going to be left behind. And we're already seeing
Um,
that I guess, with traditional media in a sense. And we've seen what the internet did, the digital
mhm.
revolution, the social media revolution, and now we're seeing it with AI. And so I think it is really handy for businesses to kind of be on board. I know it can be a really scary space, but
Mm,
education is key. And even just being able to ask somebody about it,
yes.
I think is really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's 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 here to stay, and it's not a competitive advantage to implement it now. It's a necessity, and the reason I believe because of that is because the gap that it will create from people that use it to not that don't use it will be so big that I don't think that businesses will be able to play catch up. But it's also you're also right in terms of how you use it. I think it's about us all realizing that you have to challenge it as well. Like you can't just, as you mentioned, take it gospel what it says. I think the best prompting you get out of it is when you go back and forth with it to go, actually, no, I don't like that part. Can you give me more in a set, or can you do it like this and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just this learning process that we'll be doing over the next couple of years on how to integrate it correctly into our workspace. Uh,
Yeah.
I think, even thinking about my parents, who who are still trying to figure out what social media is, which is quite funny. And I feel like I will be that way with my daughter when it comes to
Yeah.
AI. I think I know it now, but in 3, 5, 6, 10 years time, it is going to
Yeah.
be completely different to how we work with it right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really exciting. But like you said, it's a necessity.
Yes.
And if you don't try and kind of be like have the open mindedness about um, wanting to know more about it, I think you will be left
Mm.
behind. And we saw that with magazines without and newspapers not
Mm.
digitizing early enough and being left behind by these digital
Mhm.
first publications. It's nice to see them kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
But yeah, is it a little too late? Don't know.
Yeah. You're right. It's gonna. I think the generation that's going to be coming, like our children, it is the world will look completely different, and I
Mhm.
think it's the ability. The ones that will succeed is that will have the ability to be open to new ideas and be open to continuously learning. And I think that curiosity that has in some generations is starting to die out because
Mm.
of the mentality and so forth. And I think as being in sales, as you'd know as well, that the curiosity is so key to
Yeah.
having building relationships with people.
Mm.
And I think people are gonna, because of the AI revolution, I think people are gonna crave that significance and that connection that you can generate with human to humans.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, as a marketer as well, I think having that connection and being able to understand how
Mm,
to derive that from somebody is really important. It's the key of what
yes.
we do. We could not like ask AI to do that. That's not something that could be asked, can be prompted. It's something
Yes.
that comes with knowing and actually watching and observing and doing these
And
focus
feeling.
groups and feeling and all the
Mm.
research that we do. It's being able to, be face to face with somebody and understand who they are to be able to correctly sell to them.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It really is. And now, what I'd love to do as well with you, Kim, is like take a little bit of a side step, and go into your journey because
Mm.
obviously being an entrepreneur, the there's so many challenges as we know stepping into that space, and obviously I believe Mario said it, you're a new mum, so
Yes.
congratulations. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that's you've gone through like so many phases as a young entrepreneur. I'd love to explore some of the challenges, your mindset, and really dig into that because I think there's so much there that you could share for the younger generation and potentially your daughter in 10 to 20, 30 years where she'd look back and sees this and do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
tell us a bit about that.
Oh gosh, Charlie, where do I start?
Start, what made
I
you start it? What made you start?
so I'm really fortunate because I knew that I was always going to end up in the media industry, relatively on the creative side. And so that's what I studied at university, and I was
Okay.
fortunate enough to work at an agency and realize agency life is not for me. Well, media agency anyway, but I loved publisher side, and I think for me early on, I knew I always wanted to start my own business.
Okay.
I loved the challenge. I did business studies, back in college, and I I loved being able to grow something from nothing. Like I've always watched all of these like great romanticized, visions of like businesswomen. I was like, oh, I want to be that. And it's
Okay.
something, yeah, it's if you don't see it, you can't be it. And I was really fortunate early on in my career to have some incredible female and male mentors. From Jackie Frank to Mia Friedman, who have, in their own right, really changed
Hmm.
the face of Australian media and continue to do so and really
Yeah.
advocate for women's rights and have really changed the social narrative around women's health and all of these really like incredible like cultural changes. They've been at the forefront of that because they've been in positions of leadership. They've been able to, use their platform for good. And so seeing that firsthand as part of their team, as an employee, that really gave me the motivation and the inspiration to then venture off and do my own thing. But it really wasn't until COVID hit.
Okay.
And you're kind of your back is up against the wall. I was unemployed, and a friend of mine, Haley, was like, influencing's taking off. I've been asked to help people, capture their content, because they don't really know how to do it, but I don't know how
Mm.
to do the sales side. So it's kind of like two two sides of the
Ah,
coin that kind of came together. And so
okay.
we started our own social media agency called Socially, and a talent
Saw that.
agency off the back of that, and did that for a number of years. But I knew I always kind of wanted to work on larger briefs. I've come from a media background. I'm used to working with larger clients, bigger talent, and so I wanted to take that next step. And so I stepped back from that business, and kind of took a year off or so, and have done
Okay.
bits and pieces here and there. But I knew that once you start your own business, it's very hard to go back and work for
Mm,
somebody else.
mhm.
Even if it is a startup, even if they have a great environment, a great culture, they're a great mentor, there was just something in me that just said, why don't you try it on your own? Why don't you do it again? And so I did. And so in 2023, I started Markinex.
Okay.
Um, and it was a soft start because I was like, I don't want to go full head on into this. I just want to kind of ease myself into it a little bit more. And so did that, but fell pregnant in 2024 and in 2023 and had my beautiful daughter, Gigi, in July of 2024. And holy dooly, does that change you? I don't know if you have any children, Charlie.
Yeah, my daughter was born in April 2024.
Oh my gosh, they can be friends.
So I know, like and that's where it's like I know from my side, like, and it's like seeing my wife go through the whole experience and how it has such an impact. So I'd love to hear how it affected y- yourself, if it did mentally, in terms of the business. Like, did you ever go through any self doubt? And if you did, how have you been able to persevere through that and sit here and be a success in some people's eyes?
Oh, thank you for saying that. Um, it's so funny. I often get asked that question, and the, it having Gigi has changed me forever as a businesswoman, as as a mother, and as a partner, because your time is so limited. And I think one of the things that Gigi has taught me is the value of time. And
Mm,
because I have chosen to undertake um, my own business and really go for it, I know that my time is limited, and so I really have to put a value on that time. And any time
yeah.
that I spend with her needs to be quality. I'm very fortunate that my partner and I can send her to daycare 5 days a week. But if that weren't the
Mm,
case, I would willingly take her and be, a full time carer. But it was really the catalyst for me going into Markinex and really giving it my all, and being able to put Gigi confidently in daycare was my partner. My partner was like, I was at kind of a crossroads, you know, having Gigi and, kind of doing a few roles here and there and not really giving my all to Markinex.
okay.
And it was him, and I was just like, do I just go find another job? Do I find another
Mm,
job and do we just do this thing? And he was like, no. Like full stop. He was like, no. He was like, you love what you do, you're bloody good at it. And this isn't a short-term thing. This is
yeah.
this is a long-term thing. And this is your career. Like, you get a choice, and I think you should do it. And he's like, and I'm
Right.
backing you. It was him who kind of like put me um like in a light where I didn't see myself in that light. And it's hard when you've just had a baby,
Yes.
because you do have a lot of self-doubt. You do go through the greatest physiological change of your life,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
changes you emotionally, mentally, physically. And it was really because of him that I was able to kind of confidently give my all to Gigi and also give my all to the business. And it doesn't come
Right.
without trade-offs, obviously, but you have to be able to compromise and be happy with those trade-offs. Yeah.
How do you manage that? How do you manage that in your day to day? And because I agree with you, I think
Yeah.
the value that you put on time, and I say this all the time when I speak, it's like it's just like it's so precious now. It's just like, and it's both ways, isn't it? Because when you're with your daughter, you're so present. When you're not there, you make sure, like I see it as like I'm not going to waste this time because
Mm.
it's taking time away from my daughter and my wife. So how have you been able to find, I guess, the balance and also maybe compartmentalize the fact that you're sacrificing that time with, for the future time, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. I My partner and I have always, like, been very open communicators, and I think for us coming into this new phase where I was, going like full time into the business, really giving it everything and working overtime like you do when you're an entrepreneur. You work before 9 to 5 and you work after. But for
Yeah,
us, it was if we're spending time with Gigi, it needs to be time together as a family. And that's always been really important to us. So from 4 to 7 p.m., we don't look at our phones, we're not on devices. That's her time. So
great.
and it's 3 hours a day, but it's 3 hours of uninterrupted time that we get to spend as a family, and everything
Hmm.
else can happen around that. We can do the washing
Mm,
after that, we can answer emails after that, but when we're spending time with her, she needs to know that she is the most important person in our life, and
yeah,
vice versa. It same goes for George and I. When we're spending time together, we need to know that we are the most important person in each other's lives. And I
of
and I
course.
think I think that's worked for us thus far. Obviously, as Gigi gets older, there'll be new demands, new challenges, but for now, it's worked really, really well. And I think for George has really, um, like a very taxing job as well. And so I'm very supportive in all of his endeavors. He's very supportive of mine. And I think having that really strong support network
Mm,
enables you to have the trust and the confidence that you're doing the right thing, even though you don't feel like you're doing that most of the time.
right. And
Yeah.
so, with that, what would you say some of the key things that are motivating you to do or to continue the path that you're on?
Well, I think having already started a business and seeing the evolution of that and seeing where it can take you has always been a huge motivator for me. I knew this is always something that I loved. It's great that I happen to be pretty good at it. But it's also just I want to give Gigi a really great positive example of somebody who has gone for something, you know, from nothing really. And I was great to have, like, it was fantastic to have those role models that I mentioned earlier, your Jackie Franks, your Mia Friedmans, even some male role models, Brent Stewart, Josh Kruger. Um, but I only feel like I'm able to do what I do now because of them and because of George and because of Gigi. That's what really motivates me
Mm,
to give it my all. And it helps when you work with good people. All the people that I employ, I'm also doing it for them. And so that's when I talk about, you know, putting value on time. When I'm at work, of course, Gigi's always at the back of my head, but I want to be present for my employees. I can't
yeah.
be half out the door and half in. I have to be present for them because if I'm not my giving them my all, then they're losing out. They're not getting the best experience in the business, and I'm giving
Mm,
them a subpar culture where they're not able to thrive. Because I'm their mentor, and so I always think about the wonderful mentors that I've had, and I just want to be able to give that forward.
mm, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because as you were talking about that in terms of being there for not just your family, but also for your employees, it's also thinking about their family because they're sacrificing time to help you achieve your goals, and it goes hand in hand. And I think the when it's it's your role and any other business owner's role, my role, to take that into consideration
Mm.
when we're dealing with not just clients but our employers, because at the end of the day, it's it's a proud responsibility to take on. It's just that at the end of the day, where yes, we've all got the same mission, but it's because of the ones beside us or the family members at home. That's why we're doing what we're doing, and I think that it sounds like that's one of the core values that you have within the business, which I'm sure is why it's doing so well.
Oh, thank you. No, yeah, because of the value that I put on time, I also think about the time that my employers are putting in. And so if they're coming to work at 7 a.m. in the morning or for a shoot or whatever it might be, I'm always thinking, I'm like, okay, how can I make this easier for you? You know,
Mm,
just catch an Uber, the business will cover it. Or it's things as small as that that make a huge difference in
of course.
organizations. You know, it's you know, we was talking about AI before, but it is very much people drive businesses, people drive companies. And
Hmm.
even with the AI revolution, there'll still be people behind the brands, there'll be still people behind the businesses. And I'm very much a people first person. And I think that's why that's something that has definitely stayed with me since early sales days, even until now. And I try and implement that into Markinex as much as possible.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I love hearing what you've done and the sort of the journey that you've gone on in such an early period of being a business owner. Is you could probably write a book just over the last couple of years. Do you know what I mean?
I
And
could.
and have you started? Have you yet started to think about where you want to go with the business and where you want to take it?
It's it's so funny because our growth has really just kind of like blown me out of the water, and I didn't really expect it to happen so quickly. And
Awesome.
it, thinking it's funny because we're in September now, and I'm already thinking about 2026. And I was talking to some of my employees, and they're like, "That's months away," and I was like, "No, no, no, it's now." I was like, "If you're not thinking about
Um,
really like the next 6 to 12 months, possibly even the next 5 years," I was like, You're
yeah.
kind of behind. You know, we work in a space which moves so rapidly that you do really need to." Give it that time and attention to think about and forward plan. And so, in terms of where, you know, I want Markinex to be, you know, in the next 6 to 12 months, 5 years, I would still love to work with all of the clients that we're currently working with now, because I also think
Okay.
that's a true testament of success is like being able to maintain and retain those
Mm,
client relationships and for them to come back and be like, "We love working with you. We wanna sign on for another year or another 2 years," or, "We love working with
yes.
your team." Because sometimes, you know, charisma and, you know, personality can sometimes outweigh skill, and
Yeah.
I feel like in the digital space, it often does because a lot of the things are automated. But
Mm,
I would love to possibly win an award, possibly have more clients,
okay.
maybe take Markinex interstate and have, you know, an agency in Melbourne, possibly in Brisbane, maybe
Nice.
international. But, you know, those are far-reaching goals, and I know they're not without, you know, not far from reach, but, yeah, that's kind of my North Star.
Oh, good. No, go for it. Like I'm a massive believer if you of affirming and manifesting the life that you want to live, and the only way you do that is acting like you have that business and so forth. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, don't. And it's interesting because I find it fascinating when I speak to people about that, and they always they allow themselves to go there, and you can see it, and even with yourself you can
Mm.
see how you light up talking about those things, and then it's like something comes over like, yeah, but that's, and it's just like, no man, just go for it. Like, don't cut
Yeah.
yourself off. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
it's funny because I feel like in Australia we kind of, you know, tall poppy syndrome,
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
just like, oh no, but like I'm not deserving of that, or that's too far out of reach. But, I think if you make the inroads and take the steps
For
towards
sure.
that, nothing is impossible. And like even thinking about 5 years ago from
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
I wouldn't have never believed where I am today.
Exactly.
And so,
And
yeah,
that
so
should always be, it's always a good reminder because like you think about and it's okay like and that's why like I'm very big on staying present and trying to um surrender to God's plan or the universe plan depending on what you believe in, but for me it's God. And that has been one of my biggest challenges because I feel sometimes when we set these big audacious goals, the biggest thing that gets in our way is ourselves, because what happens is that we get disbelief, we get in our way because we think we should be further along the journey than we are and start trying to control the timeline. We then start second guessing the actual vehicle that we're on, and it's just and having gone on the journey I have, I think, yeah, getting out of your way is the biggest challenge that people face.
oh, it's so hard, particularly, with entrepreneurs, but just like even just women in general.
Yeah.
Women are the biggest cheerleaders of other women, but we rarely cheer ourselves when we reach any levels of success. Even if people give us a compliment, we're like, oh. No, it's just,
Mm,
this top is just from this place. It's
that's
we
true.
downplay everything, and
Yeah.
I think that's something that I'm learning to, I'm trying to unlearn, particularly, with my daughter Gigi. I want her to
Mm,
be able to like step into her own, and I'm here as a part of her life to facilitate what she wants to pursue, and I can't wait to see that happen. And I only hope that she has the confidence to go go after
yeah,
anything that
yeah.
she wants.
I love that. Yeah, I'm the same. I really
Yeah.
am. And so with that, with those some of those goals, Kim, that you have, what
Yeah.
what what's some of the challenges that you're facing, or there's it's a two-part question. So what's some of the challenges that you're facing at the moment
Uh-huh.
within the business? And then
Uh-huh.
the second part is what some of the challenges that you think may come up on the journey to going international, for example.
Yeah. So challenges that we're facing with the business. And I think this is a challenge that I think everybody, regardless of industry, is facing, is budget cuts.
Yeah.
Like budgets and campaigns are changing, and it's always wanting more for less, but still being
Mm,
able to provide quality work and quality work that you are proud of. That is probably one of the biggest challenges I foresee, because I think in terms of client relationship management, that's still very much the same. Workflow is relatively the same as long as you are able to adapt.
of course.
Yeah, with technology and digital change. Um, but that is definitely one of, I think, the biggest things, and it can be a, I guess, a blocker, a barrier for agencies to scale, because
Mm,
you're taking on more clients, you're taking on more work to obviously meet meet your bottom line, but you're going to have to hire more staff, more resources, and that's a big issue.
mm,
But in terms of like, eventually, hopefully having another agency in another state, maybe going international, I think being able to have people on the ground that understand the cultural nuance of that particular country, that location, have those relationships with clients to be able
yeah.
to build that base, but also represent Markinex as intended,
Mm,
and have that vision is always really scary, because it's really hard to kind of like duplicate an
oh,
agency and the essence
yeah.
of that.
Yeah, yeah.
um Sometimes it doesn't always land.
Yeah.
and and you see work between different markets, and it's completely different, and the essence of what you would come to be used to from like like a previous agency to what they are now, it's chalk and cheese. And so that's not something that I'm willing to compromise on, is quality, of service, quality of work, and the
Yeah,
people and the essence of the brand. And so I'm yeah, I probably won't scale. I probably wouldn't duplicate Markinex if it is at the cost of the integrity of the brand.
of course.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking that as you were saying some of the
Mm.
things, I was like, I can see the biggest challenge being what the culture and the not the people behind the brand and what the brand speaks to your current clients is how do you allow your baby, in essence, to someone else to go, I'm giving you the control over this and I'm in another state, another country. I think that's where I've seen a lot of businesses go from a small business and they've struggled to scale to the next level because of the culture and duplicating that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the hardest things to do. And I think when you have um employees that are within the business from the start, that's a
Yeah.
really great way to kind of incentivize them and, get them to bring on that culture into different markets, is have somebody within the business do it. But when you're an entrepreneur and it's your own kind of baby, if there aren't people that you trust to do that,
Mm,
it's you're putting everything that you've worked for, on the line.
for
And
sure.
yeah, I think the risk is the risk worth the payoff? Sometimes yes,
It's hard, isn't
sometimes
it?
no. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But until I'm ready to step back and let somebody do that, I don't think I could do it just yet.
Oh, I get it. But it's funny. It's similar, but not the same. My wife, we talk about our house here, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, why don't you rent it out? She's like, no, no chance, no, no. This is my home. Like I could, she can't comprehend it, and
Yeah.
it's similar in essence, isn't it? Because you work so hard to build something and it's your own spin. You've had
Mm,
so much of an impact on it. How
yeah.
do you get to, and I think it's at every level, isn't it? Because you think about people that get to in their 60s and they're in a position where they can step back. So many people don't want to. They still want to
Yeah.
be involved because it's it's become part of who they are. And
Yeah.
it's exciting though when you start to think about those things, because it's like, well, I'd love to experience those sort of challenges and see how I'm able to adapt and cope with those things. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think one example where I've had to step back and just allow things to happen, but where it's really benefited me because it's allowed me to have more time back on the strategic
mm,
side of the business and the operational side of the business is when I've let my employees lead the charge. I knew it was going to come at some point where, I've really had to kind of
yeah,
loosen the reins, give them the autonomy and the trust to do what they do best. And and
mm,
that's the thing. I was like, unless somebody's given you reason to not trust them or not believe in them, I was like, they've been under you. So if they do something wrong, it's really you have
yeah, it's
yourself to
you,
blame. It's
yeah,
you. It's
it's
you.
your
You're the
leadership,
problem.
yeah,
And so I think that's a great test of being able to kind of let go,
yeah,
and kind of like move on to other things because as soon as you're able to let go, and
mm,
I think that's where a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs fail is that they don't believe the business can run without them,
yeah.
and
But
I think
they don't focus on building the business to run without them.
correct, correct.
That's and and it's hard though. It's one of those. It's a challenge either way, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it is tough because it's like if you're building a business, it's your baby,
Yeah.
and you want to see your baby grow up in every single stage. You want to hit those milestones and not like being able to step back and do that takes a lot of trust and a lot of
Mm,
confidence.
hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm not at that stage yet, but I hope to be because I've got some great employees in the business. Some are like quite young, and it's great to see kind of like the next generation of
Yeah.
like marketing and media and sales professionals come, because, there's a lot of talk about Gen Z, but I think they're fantastic.
Oh, they are. Do you know it's interesting that and this would be maybe a conversation for another day, but we haven't really spoke too much about the sales, how sales has so
Mm.
evolved. Like, because I've been doing sales now for close to 15
Mm.
years, and I think it's evolved so much in terms of how people like to be sold to. I think it's at a point where they don't like to be sold to. And it's so funny because I've spoken about it so much, is that people are at the point where they know the basic level sales techniques, and they will tell you that other companies have tried this. I know how it works. I don't fall for that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And why I think it's really fascinating is because I think you're going to see AI pass a lot of average salespeople that do not spend time on evolving, getting better, and becoming a master at communicating. Then you're going to get the top salespeople that are going to be in a lane of their own because they focus on building trust and selling emotions. And so I'm
Absolutely.
intrigued to hear your thoughts around that.
Oh gosh, no, you've hit the nail on the head. I I absolutely love sales, and I think it's one of the skills across any industry that
Mm,
is transferable. And
mhm.
it's like, and particularly for people who are starting their business, entrepreneurs, if you don't know how to sell,
Yeah,
it's a skill that you need to learn
for
really, really
sure.
quickly, because you're always pitching, you're always advocating for your brand. But when it comes to connecting with people
Mm,
and understanding who they are, being able to think like them and put yourself in their shoes, I
yeah,
think like those salespeople kind of are a cut above the rest.
yeah.
They are able to relate and resonate with their consumer. They're not trying to sell.
Correct.
They're trying to be your friend. They're trying to get to know you. They're trying to
Yes.
figure out what you actually need so they don't have to sell. They're trying to solve a problem for you. And all
Mm,
like I think it's the beauty of a true salesperson is getting somebody to open up and tell,
yeah.
and getting that customer or consumer to share what their problem is. Because as
Oh,
soon
for
as they do
sure.
that, write
And
the
do you know,
check.
and with that as well, the next, like, what I love about that is then the next phase is getting the client to think they're in control of the decision making process when you've actually unconsciously influenced them into the direction that is best for them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Those are the sales that are really gratifying.
Yeah.
They're just because you've done the job correctly
Yeah.
when you kind of walk away from a sale and it didn't feel like a sale at all. You've come away, you've built a
Yeah.
relationship, you've been able to solve a problem, provide them with the solution that they want, and both
Mm,
parties be happy.
hmm.
Like tick, 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 tick.
Yeah. And we honestly, like I said, we could dive into so much around different philosophies and that, and it's,
Sales.
yeah, yeah. And do you know, it's fast, it's a beautiful, because all it is effective communication.
Mhm.
That's what sales is at the heart of it. But I do want to ask you the three last questions, Kim,
Yeah.
because this conversation has been fantastic and I really appreciated your time.
No, my
Um,
pleasure.
the three questions are, so the first question is what is success? What does success mean to you?
Gosh, success means to me, to be honest, it's always been to be happy. And I think, if I'm happy, my family's happy, we're thriving, that's success enough for
Mm,
me. And I've always been very much to be really grateful for being in the present. And as a
mm,
business president, obviously I'm very much looking ahead. But for the people around me, for the people that are in my inner circle, my friends, my employees, my family, it's being able to have time with them.
mm,
And I think
mhm.
that success from sort of like a business perspective. You know, we were talking about like client satisfaction and being like having that really great like client relationship. That's also success to me. Like I never I you know, we have a no dickheads policy at Markinex. We don't work with people we don't like. Like full
Yeah,
stop.
cool.
I think it's just like life's too short. You know,
Yeah,
often the clients that you work with that are a pain in the ass,
they're going to
often
continue being a pain in the ass.
gonna continue being a pain in the ass,
Yeah,
and they're gonna cost you more money because you're
yeah,
gonna be working longer hours, you're gonna be miserable working on that account, and so we just put a blanket rule in where it's like, "Nah, if we don't see this being a beneficial relationship, if we don't actually like you, it's fine. Another
uh,
agency will be a better fit for you." So we're happy to let things go. That having the choice to do that, I find is also success.
love that. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting how you view that and how you feel that as well.
Mm.
That's evident. Second question, Kim, is what advice would you give an 18-year-old Kim around success based off how you view it now?
Gosh, it'd probably be similar because I used to do a couple of like bridging courses and talks to some of the students at UTS. So we've
Okay,
been there because I feel like there is a huge skill shortage from when you graduate to when you enter in the industry, and I would really love to bridge that gap.
awesome.
And so I have had this conversation to some 18-year-olds, and because they believe success is, you know, landing a full-time job in the industry, working on these great campaigns, and it's all this idealistic nonsense
Yeah.
that they've been fed, and that's fine. You know, I was fed the same shit. But my my biggest advice to them would be, you know, you're gonna get a lot of rejections. It's the reality of the situation, and to not be disheartened because
Mm.
every no you get closer to a yes. And as an impressionable 18-year-old, it's hard when you get a lot of
Yeah,
rejections. And when you've
yeah,
studied for 3 to 4 years and you just keep getting no's. But my biggest advice would also be, you know, intern, intern, and it's the small little inroads that don't feel like a lot that will lead you to a really successful career. It's all these small connections that you're making. It's having these conversations, but
mm,
to define success, you know, for an 8-year-old's really hard because obviously priorities.
mm,
But
yeah,
I think it's like, are you happy with what you're doing? It's like like just trial and error. I think as an 18-year-old, I think is really really valuable.
yes,
But yeah, but having time to do whatever you want, that's success.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's like that when you're at that age, isn't it? It's just like fail as quick as possible and try everything and
Yeah.
anything to then figure out what you like and what what you enjoy and what you're good at as well. Because I think when you look back at 18, we come out of uni, school, and you think you've
Mm.
got the world figured out, and it's just like whack, whack, whack.
Yeah. And that's it's the funny thing because some of my employees are quite young and they're doing their last year at university, or they've recently graduated. And one of the things that I say to them is try everything. Like, I'm not going to be mad at you if you're
Yeah.
going to do an internship elsewhere. Like, try everything because the industry is big, but it's also really, really small. And the connections that you make will be some of the most important ones that you make your whole entire life and your whole entire career.
Mm,
There are people that I worked with when I was an intern or had my first job that I'm still in contact with now.
that's
Um,
awesome.
that you know we love to see each other's success, and you know some have put me up for jobs and vice versa. And I think being able to build that community, and offer your time,
Mm,
for yeah, I think is really, really important. I think having that mindset from a really early age, will kind of just set them up for success as well.
Love that. And last but not least, Kim, is what this whole podcast is named after. Is success simple?
No. I would say no, and that's probably pre being a mother. Maybe, because you'd have a lot more time. After having Gigi, no, because
Yeah,
you you put in a lot of work,
yeah.
and yeah, but when you do get to a level of success, it's nice. Like, I think you enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah, that's a great way to round us up, Kim. But
Yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure. I've absolutely loved the conversation and where it's gone. And I think I think these conversations with entrepreneurs like yourself that on the early stage of the career, there's so much insight that you shared that will help business owners take the leap, give it a go, and figure out on the way. And I think, I value the time that you spent with me to be able to share that message. And I also would love to connect offline and have a conversation as well, because part of the reason we do this is, yes, to have fantastic conversations, create the message that you've delivered. But we also look for people that share similar values to us to maybe help them on their journey, implement tools with AI to help them achieve their goals and partner up as well. And I'd love to have that conversation with you if you were open to that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been a pleasure, Charlie, and yeah, I'll be more than happy to have a chat offline.
Very good. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. I will, over the next couple of days, I will post this. I'll connect with you on LinkedIn and
Perfect.
you'll see this for yourself. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlie. See ya.
Welcome. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
There's another great conversation for you guys to hear. I think one of the key areas that I really loved about what Kim was saying is that whether you're female, male, you're going to come up and you're going to have those challenges. And I think during those periods of time, it's always to remember why you started what you're doing, be present, stay focused, and uh, you will achieve your results and you will achieve your success. As always, guys, like, comment, share it. Um, yeah, I'm learning so much, and hopefully you guys are getting something out of this that will hopefully have a positive impact.